They may be mega-dollar machines, but that doesn't mean they're not driven to the limit.
There's an incident here already. Several cars, that Max Twig. Oh, the severity of it, unbelievable.
After a bruising encounter at Eastern Creek Raceway, the Vodka O Australian GT Championship heads to the fast and flowing Grand Prix layout of Phillip Island.
It's a busy time for the competitors when you consider that they've had the opening race this morning. They're now on their warm-up lap for the second enduro. James Kondouris will lead the field. Dean Grant beside him. This is as they completed race one.
Race one certainly threw up some very mixed results out there, and a lot of guys today will be looking to make amends for probably what wasn't sort of the day they were looking for.
GT Challenge and GT production cars in the field, as well as the outright competitors. So a good field of cars here at Phillip Island.
We see Mark O'Connor there, as mentioned earlier. Obviously, he's a non-starter in this race. Suspension dramas in the Lotus has put him out for the rest of the weekend.
And the Melbourne Performance Centre team had a closer look at Grant's car, and they found some sort of air compressor problem with the paddle shift, which forced him to move back to the normal sequential in race one. Hopefully that's sorted now. Rolling start here, James Kondouris to the left of your screen. Dean Grant to the right. They control the field. Now they unleash all that horsepower. Kondouris makes the jump. Peter Hackett looks like he's got a pretty reasonable start. Big speeds on the run to turn one. Do it corner. Kondouris leads. From Dean Grant, sideways is Peter Hill. Has there been some contact there with Peter Hackett, I think it was? They're on cold tyres through turn one. Mark Cini takes evasive action, but has got some damage by the looks of it. Oh, wow, that's frightening at turn one.
Definitely looked like there was contact between the two Lamborghinis out there. I'm pretty sure Peter Hackett got into the back of Peter Hill. Peter Hill had a great run down the outside, and very disappointing start to the race.
Some of the guys involved there are only just getting over the heart palpitations and the big outlay of cash after the dramas at the last round of the championship at Eastern Creek. Cini and, of course, Palmer preparing their cars for this round of the championship. The Mosler loses a spot, running on the slightly harder compound tyres compared to the Porsche. There's Hill's car at turn one. Let's take a look at this.
It looks like Peter Hackett gets boxed down on the inside there. Peter Hill gets a run down the outside, tries to go around, but there's just the smallest amount of contact, and that's what sets him on his way. The rest of the field, as you can see, start trying to sort of miss the car there. Someone going off to the right, cars are going off to the left. Even looks like Mark Cini down the outside. Contact with the Viper. That's what does the front end damage to his car.
Ron Harrop has been brought in to be the driving standards advisor for this round. Will they be having a closer look at this? The view from Peter Hill's car, and at that stage, Warren, all you'd be doing really is looking out the window, hoping no one hits you.
You see, David Wall does everything he can to miss it. Even off the start, these cars are still going to be around about 240 kilometres an hour on the run down to turn one, so a very frightening moment there.
Albeit a good system, he did have some dramas with it in the opening race. They've made some good changes to Dean's car for this one, and by all accounts, he's feeling pretty comfortable. Race restart, Kondouris leads the way. On board with Grant through turn one. And when you go through that safety car situation, Warren Luff, everything cools off. You've got to get your mind centred once again and just be mindful of things like the tyre pressures, don't you?
It's very important on these cold days to try and get some heat in those tyres, and these guys will be very sceptical these first few corners, trying to sort of feel out where the grip of their tyres are and see what the cars around them are going to be able to do.
On the outside in the 56 entry is Shane Smolin. David Wall, one of the outright competitors, picks up a position here. Smolin, of course, in the challenge class. Looks like there was some action going on up in front. Hackett may have made a move through. Hackett's off, though, at turn four.
Very disappointing start to the race for Peter Hackett, but it's a one-hour race. There's plenty of time for him to be able to come back.
So Kondouris leads from Twig. Dean Grant doing a good job in third position. Here's the Wilson Security Shannon's entry of David Wall. As we take a look at the replay, the Donut King on board of Greg Crick makes the move down the inside. Oh, and there was a touch.
There was definite contact there on the outside. Probably not the most gentlemanly bit of driving from Greg Crick. Certainly pushed Peter Hackett out wide. But as we said, it's a one-hour race. There's still plenty of time for him to come back.
The question mark, I guess, in all of that is if he's having to nurse the car for the remainder of the race, if it does have some damage. But Hackett has been around. He knows what to do in these sorts of situations. Ivan Klassen putting the pressure on Shane Smolin. That's for second in the challenge class. Klassen did a great job in the opening race, new to the category, and winning the class. Back to the action up front.
Here we see David Wall trying to get down the inside there of Greg Crick, trying to take the advantage that the Porsche has under brakes down into turn 4.
Control entry, of course, is Greg Crick. The Viper back together. Now needs to try and claw back the points gap from Eastern Creek, but Wall doing a brilliant job there, seizing the opportunity.
He really took advantage of the speed he was able to carry over the top of the hill there. A nice clean move down into the hairpin, and now he looks ahead to Dean Grant and trying to make up another position.
Replay of the pass over the top at Lukey. Runs a little wide, but makes a big dive under brakes and gets it done. Good battle unfolding here as they exit the final turn onto the main straight. Shane Smolin and Ivan Klassen battling away for second place in the challenge class. Simon Middleton there in the Lamborghini just ahead of Ian Palmer. And Palmer on the comeback after that incident at turn 1, trying to avoid Peter Hill. Oh, and there's been a touch-up in front. Who's come out the loser of that one? Klassen, I think it is.
That's Klassen off out wide there. You can see they definitely got together on the way in there. It was only the smallest of touches, but you can see the end result. That car's going nowhere.
What a shame, considering his efforts in race 1, winning the challenge class. Again, the view.
They managed to get through turn 1 side by side, but it's only just the smallest of touches on the way in, the way the car's loaded up there, and that's obviously race over for Ivan Klassen.
So Smolin regathers, and in the meantime, Simon Middleton, who's racing the car that was campaigned by Dean Grant, the Lamborghini, in the middle of the mix here, and look at the Viper coming into its own on this long straight at Phillip Island. Palmer just a little tentative with the throttle, not wanting to get into any sort of drama at turn 1.
Yeah, he definitely made the right decision to back out of that there. Too wide into turn 1, and being on the outside is not the place to be.
Wow, what about this for seizing the opportunity on the outside on the approach to Lukey Heights? On the dirty side of the track, Dean Grant goes round the Donut King entry. David Wall goes with him. How brave are these guys?
It's a really great display of how much aero grip these GT cars have. You can see that GTR has got plenty of grip, but these cars just go straight round the outside.
Nice move. Middleton picks up the spot at the base of Lukey Heights. Listen to the way that Palmer just feeds the short shift and feeds the power on.
Starting to struggle for grip coming out of there under acceleration.
Takes an alternate line through the final turn as well. Now again, it'll come into its own. He can safely put the hammer down in that massive Dodge Viper. Will he get there? He'll be on the outside for turn 1. Here's Middleton once again. Wall rejoining the circuit now. Compulsory pit stop done, but where does that put him in terms of... There's Peter Hackett. So he rejoins behind Peter Hackett. The tyres will have cooled off slightly. Hackett yet to complete his CPS.
This is where Wall really has to push hard on this outlap. The outlap and the inlap are the most critical parts of this race. To be able to sort of get out there and be able to push on is going to be the big deciding factor.
So the GT3 entry here of Shane Smolin now leads the challenge class, with Flack having completed his stop. And look how busy it's getting here in pit lane. Hackett enters the lane, and so too does Konduras. Looks like Greg Crick coming in as well. So that will promote this guy here, Dean Grant, as we jump on board into the race lead.
Looks like they're electing to maybe do a tyre stop there on the Lamborghini.
So Konduras, strict 40km/h speed limit in the Australian GT Championship. Konduras rejoining. Will this hand the lead as we thought to Dean Grant? Here's Konduras, he's exited the lane. Grant seizes the lead, but he too has to complete that compulsory stop. Konduras now second on the road. We welcome you back at a good time in our coverage of the Australian GT Championship. Dean Grant takes his compulsory pit stop. Simon Middleton's been in, and so too has Max Twigg. So while Grant is stationary, Twigg rejoins. This is for the race lead. Konduras, who's already completed his pit stop. Will he get him at turn 1? He does, just. So Twigg in a good position, Warren Luff. He's made a He's made some good ground, some good lap speed, if you like, on the entry to pit lane and minimising the gap between himself and race leader James Koundouris.
As we spoke about earlier, it's all about those outlaps and those in-laps to be able to sort of maximise the time that you can out there. Really push hard on those laps, and as you said, Max Twig's done it to perfection. He's closed that gap, but still probably not close enough.
Good shot of Tony Alford there a moment ago in the Nissan GTR in the production class as Grant rejoins. Where will Grant fire out? He comes out, in fact, behind in third position it is. So he'll now have to chase both Max Twig and our race leader, James Koundouris. The question is, can he get it done? Feels pretty comfortable from what we can gather with the subtle changes the team have made to this car for the second outing of the weekend.
These Moslers do run a harder compound rear tyre, so we may see in the latter stages of this race that tyre life being a benefit to the Mosler.
Now, this is a problem for Keith Wong's Porsche, and yeah, okay, the word from race control is we will have a safety car here. So the Penfold Audi Sport safety car on circuit as they take Keith Wong off the track. It's bunched up the field for the restart, and this will be a sprint to the flag now. So Koundouris from Max Twig, and the Mosler in a great position here for Dean Grant. Koundouris gets maybe a car length advantage heading into turn one from Max Twig. Twig trying to fend off the Mosler. Grant can sense maybe a chance to get to second. And what about the drive so far in this race by David Wall, buried outside the top 10 after a tough opening race, and he's now into the top four. That's tremendous.
On board with Max Twig. He'll go defensive here down into turn four. Dean Grant's all over the back of him. But speaking of big moves, Peter Hackett down the inside of the Wilson Security Porsche of David Wall. Makes it stick.
Remember, his crew went to work during that pit stop, so is Hackett in for a strong run to the finish in the Lamborghini. Wall gets a little taily on the exit of Siberia. Back with Twig now. This is for the race lead. Can he get James Koundouris?
Koundouris goes wide, coming over the top, puts him to the inside here. Twig will look to try and get the better run out of this corner and capitalise down the straight.
Driver profile for Max Twig, the 38-year-old, was very successful in motocross, but is starting to make a huge impression in this championship after making the switch from 2 wheels to 4. Here he is, fighting for the race lead. Koundouris doing everything he can to defend the position.
Looking for that draft down into turn one. You can see he positions himself to the outside, back to the inside. He's really not in a position to be able to do anything about it, but he's really just trying to fill the mirrors of James Koundouris, see if he can maybe force him into a mistake.
An interested spectator will no doubt be Mark Eddy. He's not here with that awesome Audi R8 LMS. Looking forward to seeing him back in the championship at the next round. Koundouris stretches the legs between turns 2, 3, and now down to turn 4. Gains a couple of car lengths. Look at that bodywork. Will that become an issue for Max Twig toward the end of the race?
I think officials will have a look at that, but it doesn't seem like it's getting any worse, so I think they'll be comfortable to let that one go.
Back on board the Wilson security entry. Oh, look how sideways Peter Hackett gets. Just a little in the Lamborghini.
Wally wasn't able to capitalise on that. Obviously, that Lamborghini's still suffering from some tyre issues, which is surprising because they did actually change rear tyres in their stop.
How good does the Porsche sound in full flight?
Hackett goes defensive down here into MG.
Wall now thinking about trying to get the jump as they come through the final sequence of corners. Koundouris has really been able to get on with the job here. Checkered flag at the ready. What a weekend for James Koundouris. Congratulations. Max Twig will finish second. Dean Grant will be pumped about third. And the improved potential of that Mosler. Peter Hackett just keeps David Wall at bay for fifth.
Greg Crick first to the Vipers in position 6. Simon Middleton, championship returnee in 8th.
Shane Smolin wins GT Challenge. Good job. Eric Banner third in class for this race. And Tony Alford takes out production.